Looking at massive empires, we assume their sheer size guarantees survival. But history reveals a paradox. Absolute power often breeds fatal strategic vulnerabilities. To see how this happens, we need to look at two vastly different places: a small kingdom in 13th century West Africa and the sprawling 20th century Russian Empire. In both cases, these powers collapsed from within. Their leaders' superiority created a psychological blind spot that small, determined opponents were able to exploit. In the early 1200s, within the West African kingdom of Kangaba, Queen Sushuma directed her malice at a young boy named Sunjata. Sunjata had a physical disability that left him crawling on the ground, and the queen mocked him relentlessly for it. That mockery infected the royal court. Because Sunjata couldn't walk, advisors dismissed his potential to lead. When the king died, they bypassed Sunjata and handed the throne directly to Sushuma's able-bodied son. Fast forward to the late 19th century, and we find Tsar Nicholas II sitting at the head of the Russian Empire. He controlled the largest connected landmass on Earth, ruling from a position of immense, unquestioned privilege. When a rapidly modernizing Japan sent diplomats to St. Petersburg to resolve a territorial dispute, the Tsar simply threw the letters away. He openly referred to the Japanese as yellow monkeys and completely ignored their diplomatic requests. Queen Sushuma and Tsar Nicholas operated under the exact same delusion. They looked at a physical disability and a racial difference and concluded that their victims were inherently incapable of posing a genuine threat. That arrogant assumption gives the underdog a unique advantage. In Africa, the royal court's dismissal left Sunjata alone long enough to ask the village blacksmith for a heavy iron rod. Using every ounce of his strength, the boy pulled himself up. The iron rod bent under the pressure as he stood for the first time. Fearing assassination after this display of strength, Sunjata and his mother fled Kangaba. The ruling class thought they had solved their problem, but they had actually handed Sunjata 7 years of unsupervised exile to secretly forge himself into a highly skilled warrior. Decades later, the Japanese military leveraged the Tsar's exact same dismissive attitude. Because Nicholas assumed an Asian nation would never dare strike a European power, the Japanese launched a devastating, completely unexpected naval attack on the Russian forces at Port Arthur. The sudden siege sent the Tsar into a panic. Reacting with wounded pride rather than logic, Nicholas ordered his Baltic Fleet on an agonizing 18,000-mile voyage to Asia. The fatal flaw in this plan was that his ships were manned mostly by exhausted peasant conscripts who had never seen the ocean. By severely underestimating their opponents, these rulers unwittingly surrendered the strategic high ground. They forced themselves into conflicts dictated entirely by the terms of the people they despised. When a tyrant named Sumaro eventually invaded Kangaba, the people begged for a savior. Sunjata returned from exile leading a massive, seasoned coalition army, and he completely crushed Sumaro's forces at the Battle of Kirina. Back in the Pacific, the exhausted Russian fleet finally limped toward the Strait of Tsushima. Waiting for them was Admiral Togo Heihachiro, a commander characterized by strict tactical discipline. He executed a brilliant naval maneuver known as crossing the T. This diagram shows exactly how Togo trapped the Tsar's fleet. He sailed his ships horizontally across the path of the oncoming vertical Russian column. By positioning his fleet across the top of that T, every Japanese cannon had a clear line of sight. Togo ordered his ships to fire, initiating an absolute massacre as the trapped Russian lead ships were blasted apart. Whether through raw physical willpower pulling a body from the dirt, or precise geometric positioning on the open ocean, strategic leverage broke the perceived invincibility of these regimes. The fallout from Kirina was absolute. Following the victory, the allied kings bowed down to Sunjata and officially crowned him the King of Kings. The boy who spent his early years crawling in the dust laid the foundation for the Mali Empire. By capturing vast gold mines and trade routes, he built one of the wealthiest empires in human history. The geopolitical shockwave of Tsushima carried equal weight. By decisively annihilating the Russian armada, Japan shattered the long-held myth of European military invincibility. The defeat bankrupted the Russian war effort and ignited the 1905 revolution, the first major crack in the Tsar's absolute authority. This humiliation set in motion a decade of domestic unrest that would eventually lead to the total collapse of the Romanov dynasty. We start with a mocked, disabled boy and an island nation dismissed with racist slurs. We end with the architect of a golden empire and a modern military force that destroyed a global armada. Deciding an opponent is beneath you is the quickest path to ensuring they are the ones left to write the final account of your reign.